Perfect. All right.
We have 25 minutes. At the 5-minute mark, we'll have a card in the back that says 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, make sure you speak into the microphone because they're webcasting this.
Okay, gotcha. Dr. Koji, you're going to speak first and I'll speak right after.
I'll introduce you and then
Yeah, it's actually Dr. Koji will speak first, and then I'll speak with
Koji.
two of them.
Coachio.
And this is the forward backwards, I'm assuming on the
Yes.
slideshow? Perfect. So I think the is there and the forwards backwards is there, Chris.
Looks like we're ready. Excuse me.
You're going to start.
Good afternoon. The next microcap presentation is Sono-Tek. We have Dr. Coachio and then Steve Harshbarger.
Thank you and good morning. Everybody here okay? Yeah. Well, I am Chris Coachio and I'm the executive chairman of Sono-Tek, and Steve Harshbarger here is our president and CEO, and we're very happy to be here today to tell you about our company. What you see on this cover slide is a semiconductor wafer and some of our equipment that we sell to semiconductor companies to put down very thin microscopic coating using ultrasonic atomization technology. We'll talk a little bit about that, but not too much, just enough so you understand what we're doing. The next slide is simply the safe harbor statement. I'm going to skip over that and introduce you to our team. We are located in the Mid-Hudson Valley of New York. It's a very localized company in the sense that people are from our area. They work there. These people have been together for 20 years plus. Steve and I have worked together for 24, 25 years. But we have a large international footprint as well. 40 to 50% of our business is overseas, and it's been that way for years. So we are one of those unusual exporters of technology. The company was actually founded in 1975 by the inventor of what we'll describe in a moment as ultrasonic coating technology. And it took a while for it to find its footing. When you're ahead of the curve, it takes a while. But what's happened is the technology world has moved into our space. We now have 4 worldwide development labs. We've got 39 international distributors, and we have customers in over 50 countries. And you can see we have a number of diverse markets. I will talk a little bit about it, and Steve will talk further when he's here. One important note is that we have a lot of cash on hand and no debt. And I've heard 1 or 2 companies this morning say the same thing, and it's unusual, really, in small cap companies. So the ultrasonic nozzle, which is the heart of our system and which was invented in 1975, there were patents, there's intellectual property, but it doesn't just operate by itself. It needs firmware, software, electronics, and it has intellectual property protection beyond patents. So we have good protection. It puts down a very fine, thin microscopic film, and we try to give a little example of what it looks like on the L of a coin, and you can see what one little spot looks like. But we, of course, cover the entire surfaces of objects. And that's some of our equipment down below that we sell. Thin films are in. This has happened in the past 20 years, 10, 20 years. It's only accelerating as technology becomes more precise. And that slice is a side slice of a solar coating, a solar cell, a perovskite cell. And you can see it's a 0.5 micron thick, and it's very uniform, and that's critical. Now, most of us are not familiar with the metric system, but a human hair is about 100 microns, so it's a very thin, precise film. So that's the main advantage of this application for things like solar cells, fuel cells, cardiac stents, semiconductor wafers. So in the field, we're going after a number of disruptive markets for the past 3 to 5 years. Microelectronics, handheld devices, for example, cell phones. We work with a variety of companies because they all need coatings either internally or maybe to prevent fingerprinting or, a variety of things of that nature. As far as medical devices, implantables, I mean, people who have had either a heart attack or a suspected heart attack would have a cardiac stent and placed in. And starting 15 or 20 years ago, the medical industry moved towards coating them with a anti-restenosis coating to prevent clogging afterwards or scarring afterwards. So our company was at the forefront of that. We dominate that coating market for medical companies, but it's gone beyond that now. There are many other applications, both in the body and also for things like diagnostic testing. We sold a fair amount of equipment for COVID testing back during that time. And then alternative energy, it's become a significant part of our business. And around the world, there's still great interest in finding ways to reduce the carbon footprint and other effects of climate. So it isn't just about the past or the present. We're looking at a lot of different areas with our customers. They come into our laboratories and then they work with us, and we try to help them find ways to succeed in the applications they're interested in. Micro LEDs, if you have a new car, you've got one of those big screens that's been coated with some of our equipment. Smart watches, high-tech glasses, augmented and virtual reality. And then another area that's very important is lithium battery protection. In the manufacturing process, they're sort of wrapped with a material to prevent shorting. And a very high percentage of those batteries fail in the manufacturing process. So thank goodness they fail there, because if they get out and they fail, it can be a major fire hazard, and they're very hard to put out. We're working with companies that are trying to put down a spray coating using our technology to avoid the problems that come with folding something around a cell. Another area that I think is very interesting is food containers. There's a movement to get away from plastics because of the microplastics in the food. And so companies are looking at, let's say, cardboard containers, but you can't just put liquids in a cardboard container long term. You need some kind of food safety coating inside. And so we're working with companies looking at putting down that type of a barrier coating. Financially, we've had a long-term growth track. There are some dips. The first dip there was COVID. The second dip was basically the supply chain impact of COVID. But long-term, it's been a nice growth trend and a consistent gross margins in the high 40s, for long-term. And we're profitable. I don't remember a time in 20 years that we have not been profitable. Sometimes more, sometimes less. It just depends on the market circumstances and our internal decisions on how much money to put into R&D and marketing. I'm going to turn it over to Steve now. He'll give you more granular detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cochio. Good morning, everybody. Again, my name is Steve Harshbarger, and I'm the president and CEO of Sono-Tek. And let me first start by saying, while being here at 10:30 a.m., I know is not very early by normal standards, but when in Vegas after a late night, I do recognize it's an ambitious commitment. So I appreciate you all joining us here in person. And let's dive right into why I think Sono-Tek's worth a spot on your radar. Now, all the little circles you see on this slide are showing you pictures of just a sampling of the variety of disruptive high-tech coating applications that Sono-Tek participates in. And our investors commonly want to understand specifically what changed over the past decade to accelerate us into so many new growth in disruptive applications. Well, it was about a decade ago, we started to see a significant shift in the rate of which manufacturers were applying functional and/or protective thin film nano coatings onto products that historically never had coating on them. Protective and functional thin films, they're now on so many products in our daily lives. They're on our food products, they're on our textiles, they're on the glasses you might be wearing, they're on your phone, they're on your medical devices, inclusive of thousands of different functional nano thin films that are on our electronic devices and sensors. An item like a car, for example, might have hundreds of thin film coating processes that go into the manufacturing of the car to make up the parts for that car. And with all of these opportunities, it's been a very important part of Sono-Tek's strategy to focus on growth-oriented sectors. They're often developing disruptive technology products where we try to get in early on the ground floor in the development stages. Recognizing the significant number of opportunities in this rapidly expanding addressable market, Sono-Tek implemented 3 very important strategic initiatives leading us down clear pathways for growth. The first of these was to provide full system solutions. Now, historically, Sono-Tek primarily catered to the R&D sector with very basic ultrasonic nozzle setups. And then about a decade ago, we began a very important strategic shift to provide our customers with much more than these basic ultrasonic nozzle setups. We became focused to provide our customers with all the know-how, and that included all the hardware, all the software, and very importantly, all the process expertise for their specific applications within their specific marketplaces. This shift then propelled Sono-Tek efforts to develop fully integrated large production lines, which then increased the value to our customer and enabled us then to justify higher ASPs or higher average selling prices across our product offering. The second significant pathway we established to accelerate our growth was the rapid expansion of our application engineering capabilities and our laboratory facilities, both in our New York-based lab as well as our overseas labs, which are located at our international distributor sites. Our application engineering team, they really guide our customers in several ways. They'll help to define the proper liquid chemistries that the customer may be using. They'll help to define the proper product handling needs. They'll help to define and integrate the machine that may sit before and after the ultrasonic coating process. And they'll even often go out to the end customer manufacturing site to work with that customers to develop their full coating processes. This full system solutions approach really differentiates Sono-Tek from our competitors, and it builds a very strong relationship with the customer where we're much more than a vendor. We're really like a partner that's attached at the hip with the customer. Now, the third, and perhaps the most significant pathway we established to accelerate our growth was the enhancement of our internal capabilities to develop and manufacture systems that were scalable all the way from R&D to very high volume production. Now, the pictures on the right-hand side of this slide shows you the transformative journey we've gone through over recent years. The top image here shows you one of our R&D systems. The middle image shows you one of our pilot line systems. And the bottom picture here shows you one of our high-volume production systems. Now, interestingly, it's not uncommon for a single customer to buy all 3 of these machines. They may start out in phase 1 by buying one of our R&D machines to prove coating feasibility on a machine that might range in price from $50,000 to say $100,000. And then upon successfully proving coating feasibility, then they move on to phase 2 and buy a pilot line machine. And these machines are for low volume production. It may sell for $100,000 to $200,000. And then finally, upon success there, they may transition in phase 3 to one of our high volume production systems. Now, these machines can command prices anywhere from $250,000 to well over $1 million. The ability to strategically guide our customers through that process is really very critical to our processes. And our focus now is very much on this bottom box, the high volume, high ASP production lines to propel our growth trajectory. Now, this slide shows you the progression of our average selling price over the past 8 years, it looks here. The blue bars here, they represent our systems that are priced under $75,000, which are commonly our R&D machines. The orange bars here represents our systems that fall between the range of $75,000 to $150,000, which are commonly our pilot line machines. And the green bars on here represents our machines that are over $150,000. Now, notably on here, you'll see the blue bars have remained relatively constant, which is important because these are our feeder machines, the R&D feeder machines. But our growth has really been propelled by our strategic focus to expand our product offering with higher ASP production lines. And you can see in those orange and green bars, we've seen about a 5 times growth from those high ASP production machines over this time period. Now, this upward trajectory is expected to continue with particular focus again on that highest ASP production machines represented by that green bar. And we can say this upward trajectory of our high ASP production machines is projected to continue with a pretty high level of confidence because two of our most recent press releases that we had at the end of last year were for high ASP production systems, each valued of about $2.95 million, which are coming from those high ASP machines. And they are currently in our present FY 2026 backlog scheduled for delivery this year. Now, recognizing some new lumpiness of our new revenue stream due to the increased frequency of these high ASP production volume capital equipment orders, we've been increasing our efforts to roll in additional revenue streams outside of the capital equipment area by looking at our internal services aspects of the company. These are areas here like paid lab testing, paid engineering time, service time, and very importantly, reoccurring service plans. Now, although this is still in the early stages, you can see that we are gaining some momentum here. And you'll see this past year in our FY 2025, we actually broke the $1 million mark. And the purple area here you see in FY 2024 and FY 2025, we are particularly focused on, which is reoccurring service contracts. We have expectations for these service contracts to increase in frequency, going hand in hand with the increased frequency that we're selling in these high ASP production systems. And importantly, we expect these service contracts to be reoccurring throughout the machine's operable life. Worldwide government initiatives that are focused on energy independence and clean energy creation will continue to be a major focus for Sono-Tek into the coming years. Now, the new U.S. administration, it's certainly more carbon-based energy, has more carbon-based energy options mixed into the mix. But there continues to be bipartisan support for the hydrogen economy and U.S.-based solar cell manufacturing. And that is where most of Sono-Tek's significant customers from the clean energy sector are coming from. As well, we do continue to see some very strong international demand for products from these sectors from both Europe and certain parts of Asia. And there continues to be a lot of our customer base transitioning from the R&D machines and pilot line machines over to our high volume machines in this industry sector as well. And as I mentioned, we already have almost $6 million of high ASP production machines from the clean energy sector that's in our current backlog for this fiscal year delivery. Some key takeaways that I hope you remember about Sono-Tek today. We have a very solid track record of showing an upward revenue growth trajectory while consistently remaining profitable with a really strong commitment to invest into our future growth. I really love that it's very easy for a Sono-Tek investor to quickly look at our balance sheet and immediately see that this is a company that's very fiscally responsible, has no debt, has a lot of upside potential, but very minimal downside risk. We are the leader in a uniquely disruptive technology for thin film coatings. It's really just on the beginning phases of being adapted by some of the largest multinational high-tech companies in the world today. The markets that we participated in, they're rapidly growing, such as the clean energy sector, the microelectronics sector, and the medical sector. And our strategy now to guide our customers from our existing very large R&D base over to our high volume production base is certainly to drive growth for us into the future. This continues to be a very exciting time at Sono-Tek, and our systems are really advancing high-tech manufacturing operations around the world that are really critical to the global economy and the health and well-being of this planet. Let's just see here. I think that's about it. I thank you for joining us today. I hope you found the presentation informative. And if we have any time left, I'm sure myself and Dr. Cochio would be welcoming any questions from you both. Sure.
going to take to actually start to get to double digit?
Yeah. I mean, well, this past year we did do double-digit growth, but it hasn't been that consistently for sure. And we did give guidance, I should say, for this year that we've now closed for continued growth is what our guidance was, which was not published yet. We still have another month before that comes out. So that was anticipated, I would say. For margins, I believe that there is some leverage that we'll be having as we grow there. We'll get some advantage there. But I believe rolling some of these service aspects into the business in particular, they're very high margins. In particular, these reoccurring service plans I'm very optimistic on that. That will overall boost our margins. I don't predict a significant margin increase just on this plain capital equipment that we're selling. They're all healthy. They're still in that 50% area. But I think we're going to get more margin increases from our services aspects for the company. And that's a very important part of our strategy. And I know it's small right now at only $1.1 million right now. But that, I think, really has the potential to accelerate for us to increase margins. Was there another part of your question? I apologize. All right. Thanks. Oh, wow. Great.
I think it's a very, very great technology, very cool. I see tons of applications, and it's sort of maybe tangential to his question, which is like, considering that some of the underlying markets have grown so quickly over the past, 10 years, you basically doubled the size of the company. Maybe adjusted for inflation, you're selling like 50% more units or something like that. But these underlying markets might have been up, hundreds of percent. Thin film solar, hydrogen, medical stent technology, et cetera, et cetera. Would you say, can you give an overall view, why you haven't tracked the growth of those underlying markets?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it became evident to us over the last 5 to 10 years that when we were really focused on the R&D market, we could have a big multinational company, have a lot of success selling our R&D machine to them. And then all of a sudden you say, all right, they scale maybe to pilot line machines. So that was our first step to make pilot line machines. But that last transition to high volume production systems was something we had to create. We had to have the ability to do that. So now that we can sell these $1 million ASP machines that are production platforms, very importantly, it's not 1 or 2 machines you sell now. Now we can sell multiple because you may need 10 or 15 of these high ASP production systems where you only need 1 or 2 of these small R&D machines. So probably our most significant step, which is going to really accelerate the growth, is the ability to deliver these high ASP production platforms because it's multiple systems. And that can really change the needle for us there. So that's the plan for us there. Yes.
The acquisition cost must be ridiculous because every one of those things has to be acquired. You haven't defined, I think it's what Harris has answered my question. Have you identified a market, a single entity that you can focus on, that you can own, that you will end up selling 10, 15, 20 of these units, say to an automobile company or a very large pharmaceutical company that needs a coating, blah, blah, blah. I mean, why is it that you seem to be continually making these little, small entries and not having these large operations that can say, I want to do this across my business?
Yeah, our application team is, of course, always trying to find the next big hit. Like right now, for example, they're working on micro LED is another big one that they're working on for right now. But the ones that we've identified right now have really primarily been clean energy sector. And that's like the solar sector right now, which we are selling these high ASP $1 million machines into now. The area of medical devices, we certainly now have become established as somebody that can do a lot more than stents. And we do a lot of medical device coding for implantables and the semiconductor area, and in particular, the next gen semiconductor area. That's where we're selling the $1 million machines into that area. So those 3 sectors are definitely our most focused strategic efforts. But we're always dabbling in, hey, what's going to be the next one of those big ones? But we are just at the beginning phases of selling these high volume production machines. I think, 4 years ago, I think we sold 1. Last year, or 2 years ago, I think, 3 years ago, I think we sold 2, then we sold 4, and I think this year we're going to be selling like 6 or 7 of the high volume production systems. But we have to make that trajectory turn, just like we did with our pilot line machines. We sold 1, and now our pilot line machines, we probably sell several per month now. But we need to be selling several per month of these high ASP production volume lines to really make a significant impact. We have to be able to do that. And I think right now our focus is on those 3 markets in particular, but we're still always going to be looking for the next one to come up behind those as well. Yeah, we have a handful of patents that are still active. We did change strategy about 7 or 8 years ago now to do less patents because we found out we were giving the cookbook away to our China-based competition, and they haven't done it very well. Their China-based competition is pretty minute, but they will take anything and they don't care about our patents. So we do a lot less patenting to keep a lot more IP just close in-house for us, and from that standpoint. Last question, I think, because I'm out of time here. Yeah, we have quite a diverse distribution network. It's over 50 distributors, organizations, and they are from different segmented industries. So we have medical distributors, we have microelectronics distributors, and we have PC board electronic distributors. So it actually has taken a long time for us to establish this big distribution network. And then we have an internal team of about 7 sales managers and 7 application engineering engineering team, which interface with the customers as well to help them develop the process. I apologize because I think I'm getting pulled off the stage here, but I'm happy to talk more for anybody who would like to chat more. Thank you. Sorry about that.